Hey, Rob. Hello.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Okay. It says that I'm on. Let me see. Hold on. Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? No? Nothing?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can't hear you.
You cannot? Is it your, oh wow. There we go. Now we'll find out. Hey, Margie.
Here,
You can hear me?
my settings.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So it's your issue, yeah.
I'm going to go close the other door. Hold on.
Okay, I'm going to munch until we start. Hey, Margie.
No, I'm not the only one that's going to have this.
Hello, Margie.
I can't hear you very well, Margie.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes, better.
Better?
Better, yes.
Yep.
How about now?
Perfect.
Okay, good.
So, Rob, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Let me just bring up the questions. How are you, Margie? Good to see you.
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. I'm excited about today.
Yes, a lot to learn, right?
Yeah. Let me grab my notebook.
It's going to be recorded, don't worry. We still have 3 more minutes. You know, I noticed that my stream now shows the people that I interact with most, regardless of whether the volume bar is set high or low or where they are.
Uh-huh.
Because your things start popping up more. Isn't it interesting?
Who, I am or Rob?
Yeah, you. Margie.
Oh, yeah, I go in spurts. Sometimes I share a lot, like, ooh, this is good, ooh, that's good, and then I get all carried away, and then I even say on some of them I couldn't resist, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes there's days where I'll do like only 2 posts, you know? But I try to be, you know, really interactive and engaging and stuff.
It pays off, right?
Yes, it does. See if I can get this camera to... Chris has it to that perfect height that he, you know, you know, and so you guys are kind of, the camera's going like this on the screen, but it'll work. So
How's Chris doing?
Excuse me, what?
How is Chris doing?
Oh, he's doing good. He's been working these really weird hours, and sometimes he gets up like around 12:30 or 1 in the morning, and you think that he's going to be up for maybe an hour or 2, and he'll be up till 11 the next morning. Right now, that's what he's doing, is he's taking a nap, and he wanted to be here, but he had 2 appointments earlier today, and of course, you know, when you're on the East Coast, you're up a little bit earlier because our morning starts, the hours are different.
Why?
So, yeah, so, and I know that he doesn't want to be tired for the hangout for tonight.
Why?
So, you know, he's just been running, really, doing a lot of work.
How's the book coming along? I know it's hard.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely hard. We're up to, I think, well, we have a whole bunch of chapters that are up on the wall, and I think there's about 3 so far. that are completed, and things are a little up in the air with that. So we'll see how the book is going to be running as far as schedule or anything that could be different. But it's one of those touchy things, you know, where you just really work hard. I mean, for the book itself, we've put it out a lot of time, probably about dedicated time, about 8 months, and more time before that, you know, that's built from earlier days.
Right.
Like all the way back to Google Wave, you know,
Right.
even before that. So, yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
It's a baby. I'm writing one now, and it's definitely a baby.
Yeah, it is a baby, you know.
Hey, Lane.
Hey, Lane.
Hiya.
Hey,
Hi.
2 days in a row. Yay, high five.
Oh, Marty, I love your sign behind you. Excellent.
What do you like?
Your signage on the door.
Oh, that's Chris's idea.
Very nice.
And him and Boomhauer
Well done.
did a lot of it, you know. I did the green circle
Yeah.
part. Of course, it wasn't
I like it.
perfect enough, you know, so they had to touch it up a little bit.
Oh, yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
guys, we are on air. We are on air, so if you please go to my profile and share it.
Absolutely.
Then we can get
Yifat,
started.
thanks for inviting me. I'm going to be listening, but I won't be sitting in my chair for a few minutes. I have not left. I am listening. I'm just going to mute my mic because I got to zip in the other room for a few minutes. But I will be listening. I'll be able to hear you. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so we are about to get started. Okay, let me know when you shared it and we'll get started.
Okay, I did share you a little earlier.
Oh, that wasn't public, so people cannot join it.
Okay. Let's see if I can get.
Let's see.
Let's see if I can get to it. Okay. Just.
Okay. Okay. So let's get started.
And then size it, big cans off it, maximize that.
Okay. Hi everyone, this is Yifat, your G+GoTo girl. And today we're talking with Rob, I cannot pronounce your last name,
Salzberg.
Salzberg, about what type of business you want to start, taxes, and a little bit more about Rob. We're going to get to know him as a person. And so Rob, let's start with you introducing yourself. Tell us what you do and your company and how you got to where you are today.
My name is Rob Salzberg, and I work. Our firm's name is Professional Accounting Services, and we're located in Cartersville, Georgia. And we handle both individual and business taxes. We also do payroll and small business accounting through QuickBooks. I started out just with a general, like most people, just a general liberal arts major in college, and getting towards my junior year, I said I needed to pick a major, and it just made sense to me to study accounting because I just figured I wanted to be involved with business, and I knew being involved in business, that it was almost like accounting is part of getting to see the inside of business, and everything kind of revolves somewhat around accounting in terms of the financial parts of business. So lacking not an idea of what else I might want to do, and since I know I didn't want to go into my dad's career, which he was a dentist, and I didn't feel like poking around at other people's mouths, so I decided to be an accountant. And I've been this is my 18th tax season this year, and every year about this time gets pretty stressful. But I just accept it as part of my life. It's just what I do, and just kind of how things have to go. And so I mean, after 18 years, you get a little used to it, and you get to understand how to cope with it. But yeah, deadlines are tough. But I guess in business, everybody has their deadlines in one matter or another.
Would you say this is your passion, accounting?
I think working with people is more of my passion than necessarily accounting. I love dealing with people, and I love giving advice. I love consulting with people and kind of helping them through whatever problems there are, not business-wise and actually personal too. I actually happen to be a pastor at my church. I'm an associate pastor at my church, so just dealing with people is just really just my calling and my way of life. So I'm just accounting. The kind of accounting that I do, which is public accounting, where you're dealing with the public and where you're dealing with taxes and businesses. I get to interact with lots of different individuals and businesses, as opposed to other types of accountants who work for corporations that may be sitting in a cubicle and never see another soul. So that's the difference there. So I would say the passion isn't necessarily accounting in itself. There's just the raw numbers, but how those numbers affect people and how I can best use those numbers to help somebody else.
So I'm assuming, a lot of people come to you like we spoke before this hangout, and they're saying, how do you make the most and pay the least, right? And so I guess making the most is not your job, but paying the least is.
Well, I mean, paying the least, and also, especially from a business standpoint, it's understanding and getting a handle, especially when we deal with accounting, is it gives you a story as to what a lot of small business people, unfortunately, will do what they do best, which is run their business. But if they're not looking at the numbers, they really don't know where they've been and where they're going. And so in those numbers, it tells a story as to what might need to be done to become more profitable.
And so it sounds like you're more kind of like the Matrix kind of guy. You see the information through numbers, and you tell a story behind that. So how do you write the best story for your business, right, with using numbers? Are there any tricks or any things that someone needs to know before they start a business, while they're in the business, before the IRS calls them?
I mean, from an accounting standpoint, you need some kind of way of recording it. My preferable way is use a very popular software that's relatively simple, at least simpler than other accounting softwares. I mean, there are people that I know may not even think QuickBooks is simple because it's just not what they do. Right. But it's a software that I have clients who have me do their QuickBooks from receipts all the way to doing the financials, to other clients that do all the inputting and then they let me review it. So I do both ways there, and then from the financials, then we can look at certain things like where we're spending the most, and if there's a particular expense category that's not proportionate to other expenses, and maybe out of whack and needs to be budgeted better. Once you've gotten a couple of years down the line in your business, then you can start comparing year to year and seeing how things have changed from year to year. So it really gives you not only a story of current, but it gives you a history as to as how you're progressing and whether you're managing your finances correctly.
So what is the biggest mistake that people are making when they run their company?
One is not separating your personal life from your business life. There's two things that there are actually three things that are a problem with that, and that is one, you have one problem is that when you don't separate your business from your personal, and you're in a corporation or you're an LLC or whatever, you're making yourself susceptible personally to being sued, because that little limited liability protection is good as long as you are putting yourself out there as a business and working as a business. But if you don't have things like a separate bank account for your business and your personal stuff, or you start using your business debit card to go onto the grocery store, those type of things are going to run you into trouble, because then a creditor or someone who is suing you can go ahead and wind up what's called piercing the corporate veil, which allows them to go ahead and sue you personally. The other thing is when you don't separate business from personal, you're causing some problems if you're ever audited, because the IRS is going to start looking at stuff, and if they start seeing a lot of personal expenses, they're going to wonder even if certain business expenses are more personal in nature. And then the third thing is it just simply gets confusing. It's much better to keep your personal life out of your business life, and vice versa when it comes to your bank accounts and all that kind and documents and all that kind of stuff.
Is there an easy way to do that? I'm sure for a small proprietor like myself, I'm working out of my house, and most of the stuff that I do is so far on a small scale. So is there any way to easily separate your business from your personal life?
The number one thing is separate bank accounts. You got to have a business bank account, because that'll keep your accounting straight, and then not only have the separate bank accounts, but use each one for what it's intended for. Business stays with business, individual stays with individual. And what I see people doing is they'll do something like they won't have any money. They just started out, so they don't have much cash in their business checking account. So what do? They go ahead and they write out a check, or they do on a debit card, they do an expense out of their personal bank account. That causes problems. The better thing to do would be to go ahead and send personal money and loan it to the corporation or the LLC, and then write the expenditure out of the business account. So everything business-wise flows out of the business account. Everything that's personal flows out of the personal account.
So would you be paying yourself basically a salary from your business account to your personal account? Well,
no. The money going from the personal account to a business account would be either it's depending on how you decide you want to structure it. It would either be what's called a capital contribution, which means you're just giving equity into the corporation, making it worth more, or you're just simply loaning as a person. You're loaning the business money, and it's just simply a loan, and you can charge interest and all that. You make it as a formal relationship from that standpoint.
Are there any apps aside from like QuickBooks that you know of that can make your life easier as a business owner?
Well, QuickBooks would be the major one from that standpoint. There's something I just looked at just the other day. There's something made by Intuit, which is the same company that makes QuickBooks, and they actually started a new service where you can actually take your receipts and either with an iPhone or whatever, I guess any smartphone, take a picture of the receipt. It goes up to their servers. Some human looks at that receipt, determines where it needs to be categorized, and then indexes it, and then what makes it ready for your use, and can actually from the receipt after it's been indexed and everything, you can actually take that and put it directly into the accounting software. So there's a lot of iteration going on in everything we do, and accounting's no different.
That is wonderful. I mean, that actually takes away the
and it's a really cool name too. They call it Shoebox.
Shoebox.
Because that's what the accountant gets, a shoebox.
So it's a shoebox from Intuit?
It's, yeah.
Let me look into that. That's amazing, because that's kind of like taking away the need for data entry.
Mm-hmm.
And all you need really is a CPA that by the end of the month they're getting the reports and they're looking at it. That's wonderful. I don't see that, so you'll have to share. Oh, there you go. Shoebox. Another really cool application, I don't know the name of it, but I've heard about it. On your iPhone, you can download an app that tracks your miles. So basically, when you leave your house, if you're like half a mile away from your house, it starts tracking. And it's tracking all the kilometers, however much you're driving. When you get back to your house, you need to say whether or not it was for business or personal. And it, again, puts it into to QuickBooks, which is wonderful. You know, before you had to sit down and write every mileage and how, you know, the odometer. So this is great. Okay. Any favorite?
I guess
Go ahead.
since you brought up business mileage and you were talking about mistakes before, one thing that I find sometimes is misunderstood is what's considered business mileage.
Mm-hmm.
And the confusion sometimes is what's called commuting mileage, which commuting mileage is not deductible. So of course everybody who has maybe a W-2 and goes to work every day, they obviously can't write off their mileage from their home to their place to where they're going to work. But in the same way, if you have a home business, well then you're set, because everywhere you go from your home is business mileage if you're doing it for business.
Right.
But there are also some self-employed people who have their own office somewhere outside their home. Well, so the same rule applies. When they go from their home to their office, that's considered commuting mileage, not deductible. But once they're at their office, they can go wherever.
And actually, now that we're talking about mileage, there's also the difference between mileage and something else, right? That you can write your mileage in two ways.
Well, I think what you're referring to is there's a choice between, as far as an auto expense deduction, you can either take mileage or you can take actual expenses up to the amount but the way it works is business mileage is just straight business mileage times the IRS mileage rate. With that way, actual expenses work is you take all your expenses and then you figure out what your percentage of business use is, which would be your business mileage over the total mileage that you've driven the car in a given year. So that percentage is your business mileage. You take that business mileage, multiply it by your actual expenses plus depreciation, and that would be your auto expense deduction. So it's a little more complicated to do the actual expense. So a lot of people just opt to just do the easier and do the mileage, but also sometimes it's just a question of comparing the two and just determining which one is better.
And so you, as an accountant, will sit down and look at both expenses and then say, okay, you can actually make more if you do it mileage-wise or expense-wise?
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, it's about accumulating the information, knowing what information is needed, and then basically from there, actually, the tax software figures out that comparison.
What's a day in the life of Rob Salzberg like?
What's a day in the life of Rob Salzberg? Well, I mean, I'm a single dad, so. Morning is involved with getting myself ready, making sure my daughter's ready, and then I'll take her off to school, drop her off at school, and then head off to my office. And some days I won't see anybody, and I'll just be doing just accounting and whatever tax returns are done. And then there'll be other days where I'll have people coming into the office to collect their information or ask me questions and discuss their businesses or their individual tax situation. And then after that, it's pretty much my daughter's a competitive tumbler, so we have practice 3 times a week, and then I also run a not-for-profit as well, so I keep myself pretty busy.
It sounds like it. Any favorite business quote or quote in general? Any favorite quote?
I guess let's see. I thought about it today, and now I'm drawing a blank. Oh yeah, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what I was talking about in terms of planning your business, and that is if you fail to plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That quote I just think is especially with what I deal with every day. It comes out very true very often. An example, just something that just happened recently, but I think is a good example of planning is I have a client who came in the office, and after I did his tax return, he wound up with an unexpected $5,000 tax bill.
Oh wow!
And the reason for that was, and if he had called and talked to me about it previously, it wouldn't have been that I would have been able to save him any more money. I would not have. It was just something that was clear cut, dry. It was just something that he had no control over, and because of that consequence, he had to pay the $5,000. However, would have been better to have known about that $5,000 3 months ago, as opposed to now knowing it 2 weeks before you have to correct the check. Of course, that would have been a lot better. And basically, all it simply was, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are dealing with this year, and have been dealing with it for the last couple of years with all the foreclosures that are happening. And that is when you have a non-principal resident, not your own home, because your own home gets exempted from this. But when you have another type of property that you own and it gets foreclosed on, and the fair market value, let's say, of the property is $100,000, and then you have and then the loan that you have on it is $150,000. So they foreclose on the house and they get $100,000. So they have forgiven you the other $50,000 in foreclosure, and that $50,000 to the IRS is what's considered charge-off debt. Is called cancellation of debt income, and cancellation of debt income is taxable. And so here it is. This person's got a $5,000 tax bill because of an extra $50,000 of income that they receive no cash from. It's called cashless income, and it's really a tough thing for a taxpayer to bite. But and there are a few things that cause something like that, and foreclosure is one of them. So if you had called me and said, hey, I just got foreclosed on, I just wanted to know, is there any tax consequences I should be aware of? And if you had, then we would have looked at the numbers then, and then he could have saved up for this $5,000 tax bill as opposed to now trying to scramble to get it paid.
So is there, it sounds like there are some expenses, some things that even a CPA can't help you in your time of need. You could have helped him save for it, but not really save him from that expense, right?
Yeah, I mean, once a event is triggered, like a foreclosure, which he absolutely had, I mean, other than, of course, paying his mortgage, once the event is triggered, sometimes there's absolutely just nothing. There's nothing that can be done. You just plan. You can plan for it in terms of how to react after that. But as far as I mean, once that house was foreclosed on, he owed the tax, and it was that's kind of cut and dry. There's with taxes, you've got gray area, you got black area, and you got red area, and it's just a matter of playing by the rules. If you play by the rules, you're generally going to be okay. It's not going to save you everything that you can be saved if you don't play by the rules, but there's consequences to playing not by the rules, though.
So you actually answered my next question, which would have been, if Intuit or TurboTax is there and you can do your taxes by yourself, what is the benefit of having a CPA? And I guess the answer is, well, you know all the rules, and you can plan and help planning and save people money before they get to the point of actually entering all the information into TurboTax and realizing, I owe all this money.
Yeah, that plus when you're data entering it yourself and don't have the 18 years of experience that I do, there's a chance that you might put something in the wrong place. And if you put something in the wrong place, you're not going to get the right result. And so that's although TurboTax for a simple return, I mean, most people could do that just fine, and it wouldn't be a problem. A more complex return, when you start having stuff that needs to be data entered in different places, you can wind. And then of course, like TurboTax, it's question driven. So it's asking you questions, but there may be questions that should be asked that Intuit has no idea to ask. But me, a human, just because I have a relationship with the client, may know to ask that question.
So you basically allow or help a person, like you said, write their story so that the ending is happy ending.
That's certainly the goal, and it's the more, like I said, the more preparation and the more planning that goes into it, the better the result can be, it's just a matter of getting, just like a doctor needs to know what's going on in a patient's life in order to know what questions they ask and so on and so forth. Well, I think any good accountant's got to know their client, and they need to ask good questions. I think asking good questions in any business-wise, anytime, is a good consultative approach, and so that's the one thing that a computer can't do. Is it can't come up with, it's only programmed to ask certain questions. It may not think out of the box or whatever.
So talking about that one, what is the most essential skill? Sorry, what's the most essential skill a business owner needs to have in order to be successful today?
I think good communication skills are important. They're important for me in terms of communicating with a client, but of course it's the other way around too. If a businessman is coming into small business person is coming into my office and needs advice, the better he can communicate what he's looking for, what he needs from me, the better. The easier it is for the job, the less time it takes, and the better job I can do. But I think that's just true in business in general. Is that especially now that we're becoming, relationships are so important that we in business that being able to communicate is really a skill you just need to have.
Do you find that a lot of people come to you and are afraid to admit to things that they've done, and then it comes back to kind of bite them?
I don't know if they're so much afraid. They do get, there is times where they will get embarrassed or feel stupid about it, because after the fact they're like, I know I shouldn't have done that. So from that standpoint, but also life happens sometimes, and even though they had the best intentions, they didn't want to do something at the moment. They felt they had to. I mean, a good example of that is when people pull money out of their retirement account and they're not of retirement age. Well, they get hit with a 10% penalty, and that 10% penalty is not any way to, when that happens, it's one of those things where it's not unavoidable. Once you've done it, once you pull that money out and have gone past the 60-day period to roll it back in, then you're going to get hit with that 10% penalty. But if you've got to pay some bills and there's no other money anywhere to get, and you get desperate, you'll do it. then you have a tax bill come April, and you're back in the same situation you were, because now you owe the IRS money.
So is there actually a way to do it that is not that painful?
Not really. There are certain exemptions to 10% penalty. The 10% penalty, as far as if you have deductible medical expenses and you need to pay those, it can be pulled out tax free for that. Another would be certain educational expenses you can pull out for that. And then a certain like a 401k, you can work it out with your employer to, instead of having money pulled out as a distribution, it can be pulled out as a loan. That certain 401ks with employers will allow you to do that.
So again, it's about knowing the rules,
Mm-hmm.
which is where you come in.
Yep.
Let's talk about you a little bit. What's the most influential time or moment in your life that led you to where you are today? Your dad being a dentist, one of them?
Steered me out of the health profession. I don't. I think a big event in my life was a big influential time. Actually, I guess as far as influential person would be my dad. As far as influential time, I would say that would be would have been actually a negative, relatively negative experience, and that would be I had a rocky four-year marriage, but the good part about that is during those adversary times, the times that are tough, the times that really challenge you, there's a lot of great growth involved with that. On the other side of that marriage, I mean, there was one good thing that came out of the marriage, and that certainly was my daughter. So if you asked me would I do it all over again, well, yes, because of the growth and because of my daughter, I certainly would. But also on the other side of that period, I also found my faith. So that and faith, me finding my faith is the most influential moment of my life, because it drives everything I do from going forward, and centers me and keeps me on track. So those would be the things that were most influential to me.
So talking on that, what's the biggest mistake you've made, and what did you learn from it?
Biggest mistake I made. My dad was something he always told me was, Rob, you need to have delayed gratification. He constantly hammered that on me, and I'd be like, yeah. You know, of course, the son having trouble doesn't always listen to the dad, and I'd say the biggest mistake was not really listening and not really understanding the importance of that, because I know I could be, although I'm happy where I'm at, I could be a lot farther down the road had I not made when I was younger, had I made some choices differently. And I think we've all experienced that to one extent or another. But I think that's the biggest thing is not giving into is having delayed gratification, not living in the now, so to speak.
That's very interesting, because I think Deepak Chopra has that, or someone else has it, the power of now, and actually, yes, living in the now, and it's two different, schools of thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you were not an accountant, what would you be?
I've thought about this. I think about if I had to start a new career right now, it would probably be I think number one, as far as what I'm most equipped for, other than this, I probably want to be. If it's in terms of experience and what I can easily transition into, I would probably do because I love computers. I'd probably be like an IT guy. As far as what my interests are right now is I've done a lot of studying and whatnot in terms of marketing, especially internet marketing. So something from like a local marketing consultant type of thing would be something I would probably aspire to get into, maybe.
IT and numbers are working very well hand in hand, so might just be a different facet of what you're doing right now.
Yeah, in fact, at one of the firms that I worked for, our computer consultant was a former accountant.
Definitely. What's the happiest days of your life, in your life?
The happiest day of my life was most certainly my daughter's birth. Yeah, that's certain, because when she came in, when she came into my life, it gave me a reason to grow up and to mature and to start making some grown up decisions. She's just it's her and me at home, and so it's a lot of fun.
It's
trying at times, but a lot of fun.
Children are so interesting, aren't they? They copy everything that you do, and so it's kind of like you're standing in front of a mirror all the time, and then sometimes you're like, dude, that's me.
Yeah, it's like,
so it definitely brings you up and make you grow and make you more of the person you want to be, because you want them to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a journey. What is the worst business advice you've ever gotten?
Honestly, I don't know. I've had pretty good mentors, and I don't know if I necessarily have gotten any bad advice. It was so insignificant and small that I just simply don't remember. but for the most part, I've had pretty good mentors and bosses who conduct themselves pretty well and have given me good advice. So
that's good. So now it's your turn to give good advice.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about that, if anyone thinks about starting a company today, an internet marketing business or a company, what advice can you give them to get them started on the right way?
Well, I think although you can stay as a sole proprietor, I would not advise it. I would say that you should either be what's called an Scorp or an LLC. Most people will probably opt for the LLC simply because it is just simpler to run than an Scorp, and it doesn't involve you having to have a salary, which in Scorp you need to pay yourself what is called reasonable salary. On the LLC side, the disadvantage there is your earnings are taxed as self-employment income, whereas on an Scorp, you're paying yourself a reasonable salary, but anything above and beyond that is distributable net income, that money is not taxed for self-employment tax. So you kind of have to weigh simplicity and the costs of payroll versus what's my train of thought? versus having to pay self-employment tax. And then there are other things that come involved, like you might want to be an LLC, but if you ever wanted to get, let's say, venture capital or wanted other shareholders and not actually partners, then you're going to need the Scorp, because most venture capitalists will invest in a Scorp, but they will not necessarily invest in an LLC.
You can change, right? So you can start and grow, and as you grow, change the...
Well, that's the interesting thing about an LLC. An LLC can actually be an Scorp for tax purposes. So you can start an LLC, have it be a partnership or what's called a single member LLC if it's just you. And what happens is, what you have to do is you have to do what's called a entity classification form and the form number's escaping me at the moment, but basically you fill out this form and you can change your status from a LLC as a partnership to an LLC as an S Corp. And then it's taxed just like an S Corp, and you run it just like an S Corp, even though it's an LLC. Let's see, what else?
So in terms of setting up your company, you can start setting it as an LLC and then change it or treat it differently for tax purposes as you grow.
Yeah, and then the other important thing to point out is when you do an LLC and it's just you, there's no partners. That's called a single member LLC, and it's called what the IRS calls is a disregarded entity. And what that means is simply there's no tax return for the single member LLC. If you have rental property in an LLC, then you just file your income and expenses on Schedule E, which is the rental income and expense schedule of your personal tax return. If it's a business, it would be Schedule C, which is the business income part of your personal tax return. So for tax purposes, it's just like you were a sole proprietor. However, you still have the LLC limited liability protection as long as you're very careful to make sure that you're acting like a business. And then you got your like we had discussed earlier, your business and your personal stuff separated very well.
So if you're talking about that kind of stuff, what is the best ninja trick or something accounting trick that we need to know in order to make the most and pay the least? You see my motif of this conversation, right?
What?
The motif of my conversation is how do you make the most and pay the least? With taxes, that's a difficult question, and I'm not trying to avoid it. It's difficult only from the standpoint that taxes is so specific, really, to every business in terms of what can and cannot be done, and whether it applies to a particular individual or a business. I would say, and maybe your motif is what you said. I guess my motif is plan. It may not be a sexy ninja trick, but it's probably the thing that can save you the most money and give you the least amount of pain, and that is the plan and the plan and the plan, and to have. And I wouldn't say just for an accountant. When you start getting into business, I guess one of the biggest advice I can give is not just to have an accountant, but to have a whole really like an advisory board. You should have you should have an attorney. You should have an accountant. You should have if you're not actually in marketing, you should have a marketing consultant. You should have all those type of things. So before I'm going to open it up to questions. 3 days ago, something very interesting happened in Austin. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but the IRS, Rick Perry, started combing all the businesses here and just auditing all the businesses. And by this audit, a guy who runs 6 of the downtown clubs here is an Arab descent. His entire family, it's a Yassin family. Apparently, they were laundering money and sending it to the Hezbollah in Tel Aviv. And Hezbollah in Lebanon, to attack and fund, buy weapons and drugs and everything. And so it's very interesting. My husband was reading the reporting. Was like, I bet it's Rick Perry. I bet it's the IRS. I bet you're looking for, or missing money. And that's exactly what happened. The IRS, the IRS got them because they had so much money that they were sending offshores and they didn't report it. And that was like a red flag. And so everything that Rob is saying, plan. Make sure you know what you're doing, not because you're sending money to Hezbollah, but because the IRS can come and look at your reports. The
IRS is the most. It surprises me even sometimes just how powerful they are, because they can do certain things that just nobody else can do. The biggest thing is they can take money from you without going to court, which nobody else can do.
So yeah, so that's on that note. Let me open it up for questions. I know, yeah. Domingo, you had a question that you started writing on our page before.
Yeah, I got that written down.
He's right there. I'm going to let him ask the question so everybody has it.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, excellent, thank you so much. So what I am wondering is, for those of us that are having to deal with the affiliate nexus tax, North Carolina is one of them. I know also.
Yeah, that was you, Domingo. Let's try it again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So with those of us that are having to deal with affiliate nexus tax, North Carolina is.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
So with those of us that are dealing with affiliate nexus tax, what would you?
Okay, let me try to ask it. I'm going to find the question and ask it. Unless you have it there, right, Rob? Do you have it?
I guess the biggest thing he was asking was, for those that are dealing with affiliate nexus tax, is there a particular corporate structure or way to structure your business to best deal with the affiliate nexus tax? And then he mentioned, and this is going to be the problem with him not being able to talk back, is he mentioned setting up a holding company. And actually, now I'm looking at the chat. Give me just a second.
Oh, what he says is that, could you talk about the recommendation on corporate structure for those of us in states where we have to deal with affiliate nexus tax? Does it make sense to incorporate in one state as a holding company while incorporating at the same time in our home state? And also, what percentage of what a company makes can be written off as a donation to a separate nonprofit organization?
Okay, as I understand the affiliate tax, let's say you're an Amazon affiliate and you're in one of these affiliate nexus states, let's say like North Carolina. What happens is the laws in North Carolina have made it so that North Carolina considers an affiliate in North Carolina selling an Amazon product and to another North Carolina resident as a sales tax a sale subject to sales tax. And I'm thinking Domingo's question may arise in the standpoint that he's wondering if I have my company, if I have a holding company, well, you know what? I'm not entirely clear as to what he's trying to accomplish by the holding company. I probably can answer his question. I'm just not clear on that. So if he wants to, he can certainly we can certainly have this conversation on G+ or in a separate hangout or whatever. But let me. Well, he's also replying, so we'll see what he. Okay, we could do that, and then. But I guess I'll give you my own spin on it, and that is with the needing to have needing to pay that tax. Trying to think of the sales tax part. The sales tax issue is one thing. The income tax issue is another. And from the income tax issue, you're going to be taxed in your home state with the amount of income that you've earned throughout the country. You're going to get taxed on that in your own home state. What might happen is if you pay taxes in another state, that tax can then be used as a credit towards the tax owed in your own home state. Multi-state taxation can get really complicated, but basically so from an income tax standpoint, from what I can think of, there's not really an issue one way or another. It's really on the sales tax side, and then it's not so much. As far as what your I'm sorry, I know I'm studying a little here. It's not so much a factor of when it's a situation like an Amazon situation. Amazon's paying that sales tax, not you. Now, if you have affiliates in other states, then those states that have affiliate nexus, then you have a situation you definitely have to deal with, and a situation that I would agree with people that are fighting this law is seriously unfair. Do I think there's necessarily a way around it? Not unless the Supreme Court strikes it down, which at this point they have not been willing to do. As far as like the corporate structures, that would be something I would need to know what Domingo's thinking is in terms of what he was thinking and whether it makes sense or not. And I guess we'll have to talk about that later. And then I've got a question: as an American citizen living and working in Italy, what are my tax duties? Okay, international. When you are a U.S. citizen and you're dealing with international taxes, when you're dealing with taxes outside the U.S., when you're dealing with income earned outside the U.S., the tax law is pretty straightforward, and then there's exceptions to the rule, as there always is. The straightforwardness is, as a U.S. citizen, you are taxed on all of your worldwide income. Now, here's where the exception to the rule comes in. Some countries have tax treaties with the U.S. Those tax treaties will govern how certain income is dealt with. So from a general standpoint, a general rule, you're taxed on your worldwide income. But depending on what country it is and what that tax treaty says, there may be some ways of avoiding having to pay it in both countries. A lot of the countries that we have tax treaties with, the thing that they're trying to avoid is having a U.S. citizen be double taxed. So that's a lot of what these treaties do. They keep you from going ahead and doing that.
So if you incorporate like Malaga or Belize or something like that, right? And that's something we were talking about. If you incorporate in a country that is favorable, like tax favorable for businesses, but you live in the U.S., the taxes would be different because of the way Belize is taxed. Because the way Belize.
Well, let's say you're a U.S. citizen and you have income that's earned in Belize. Well, that income may be tax sheltered or whatever, or exempted or whatever in Belize, and you may not owe tax in Belize. But because you're a U.S. citizen, let's say you earned $100,000, that $100,000 is still taxable in the U.S. because you're a U.S. citizen.
And does it matter whether or not I live in the U.S. or just my citizenship is what matters?
No, if you are a citizen of another country and you're not doing business in the U.S. and all your income is earned in that country, you're governed by that country's laws. The U.S. would have nothing to do with it.
No, but if I'm a U.S. citizen living in Mexico, doing business in Belize, do I still have to pay the U.S. taxes because I'm a citizen?
Yeah.
Even though I don't...
Now there is something called the foreign income exclusion, which we hadn't talked about. I mean, there is something called the foreign income exclusion. If you are completely out of the U.S., then you can take advantage of that foreign income exclusion, which I think there may have been there was at least at one point a note, I think somewhere.
Stay out of the U.S. for 11 months or a year, and $85,000 are taxable.
It's what David is talking about in terms of the. Well, it's not.
So it's residence. He's saying residence is what's important, not really.
Yeah, residence is important, and like I said, you get to take advantage of the foreign income exclusion, which will exclude your there's a formula involved with how much you've earned and so forth, but it'll exclude a portion of your income if you are completely outside the U.S. for most of the year. You basically can come back for I don't remember exactly the number of days off the top of my head, but it's like maybe 14 days or something, 10, 14 days, something like that. But so if you're pretty much like one of the things I've had a client who last couple of years has gone to Iraq as a consultant. He's been in Germany as a consultant. He barely is in the U.S. He's in the U.S. maybe for a week to visit his family, and then he's back out doing his work outside. And he gets approximately he's getting an exemption of about $28,000 of his income, and it can go up. If last I checked, it can go up to $40,000, but it's based on how much of that $40,000 you get is based on some formulas.
Are there any other questions? Guys, you can unmute your mics. Just feel free to ask any questions you have.
Thanks very much for that, Rob. That was really interesting. And even though I'm in Canada and a lot of it doesn't apply, a lot of it was quite pertinent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. Any other questions? Margie, I see you're typing. You can just unmute your mic and feel free to interact.
I'm going to try.
No, it's too static.
No.
I just wanted to say thank you, Rob. That was a lot of good
Yeah.
information. And I'm happy that it's being recorded, so I could review it a little bit more. So, yeah, yes, it was very, very interesting.
Domingo, you need to update your talk.
One thing I'll mention to all of you, I mean, feel free to reach out to me on Google+. I'm not someone who nickel and dimes for every minute of my time. I mean, I feel it makes sense to give value and in what you do, and so I mean, if there's some questions that you would like to ask, by all means. If it's something that gets involved or whatnot, then of course we're going to need to enter into some kind of business relationship. But as far as some casual questions that you might want to know, I mean, feel free. I'm open to that. And then I guess I meant to say this at the beginning, but I did. Of course, everything, and I just feel I need to say this. It's just important, and it is. Because I don't want anybody to be misled otherwise, is although I'm an accountant, I am not your accountant. So please consult your accountant and get clarification of anything we discussed here, as well as I am not an attorney, so anything we talked about that is a legal question, please consult your attorney.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you.
And if there are any other questions, leave them on our stream or directly with Rob. And we'll see you on next Tuesday for another Tech Talk.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Make it an excellent week, everybody.
You too.
Thanks, Yifat.
Thanks, Elaine. Bye-bye.